Hello and welcome back to part 7 of Learn Fusion. And in this video we're going to be learning export, import, holes and fixings. Okay, so first of all we want to save our file. So we come over here and click on save. And we just want to call this box. Then we click on save. So now what we want to do is we want to create a new component and call this box. Then click on OK. Now that we have our new component, we want to draw a cube. So come over here and create a sketch. And click on this plane here. Next, we want to click on create, click on rectangle, and then click the center rectangle. Then we want to click the center point. Bring this out, and we want to do 50mm. Then hit tab, and do 50mm again. Then press enter on the keyboard. Then we click on finish sketch. Then we click on extrude, and extrude this out by 50mm again. Then click on OK to confirm this. Now next, what I want to show you is importing and exporting. So I'm going to click on save here, and we're going to export this box. So, as I mentioned in the first video, Fusion is actually a cloud-based software. So when you save these, for example, it's actually saving to their cloud. So if you want to export this to your own files, now what you can do is come up here, click on File, and then Export. And depending on what version of Fusion you've got, you might have different options here. So if you click this drop down here, you'll be able to choose different file types. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail in this video, but as a brief overview, if you want to save something to reopen it again in Fusion, then it's best to save it as a .f3d file, because you'll have the history of your design and you can go back to it and make modifications. Then, if you want to save something for rendering or animation in a program like Blender, for example, then it would be best to use either a FBX file or an OBJ file. Alternatively, if you want to save something to open in another CAD program, like SolidWorks for example, then it's best to save it as a step. And then, if you want to save something for 3D printing, then it's best to save as a .stl file. Now, that's just a really quick overview, and it really does depend on your use case, so it might be different for you depending on what you're doing. But for now, for this file, I'm going to save this as a .stl and show you what I mean. So I'm just going to export that to my desktop. And now that's exported, I want to show you how to import the model back in. So if you come up here and click on Insert, and then we insert it as a mesh. And I'm going to select that from my computer. And I choose it from my computer desktop, and I choose the file box. So you can see that it's re-imported my model. And just to make this less confusing, what I'm going to do is go and move this over to one side. And then I click OK. Now you can see this has come up in a different colour. And then if we drop these down, we'll be able to see that. And you can see that it's highlighted it as a mesh. And meshes may be something that you come across during your journey learning Fusion, and especially if you're into Fusion for learning how to do 3D printing. And they are more difficult to work with inside of Fusion, so just bear that in mind. And also, something else that I want to show you is Inspect. So Inspect basically has loads of tools that allow you to just analyze your model. So I'm going to show you a few of the basic ones in this tutorial that could be helpful for you. So we've got the measurement tool here, and if I click on this, you can use this to see different measurements on your model. So if I click between these 2 points here, I can analyze that this is 50mm. So I'm going to close that now. And then another one I want to show you is section analysis. And this allows you to take a cut through your model to see inside it. And it's just for viewing, it doesn't actually cut the model in half. I'll show you what I mean. So if I click on the section analysis, then I actually want to click on this plane here, but because the cube's in the way, I'm not able to. So what I can do is go to my origin plane here, click on it, and then you can see it's here. It's the XZ plane. So I click on that, and now you can see that it's cut halfway through my model. Then I click OK, and I'm just going to spin this around, so you can see what I was talking about earlier. This is where body 1 is a fully solid body. But then you can see this mesh here is actually hollow. So that's the difference between the two. And I will go into more detail in exactly what meshes are in another video, because they're very useful for 3D printing. So now we actually want to delete this mesh box here. So we right click on it and press delete. And then you can also see here we've got our analysis. And we actually want to hide this section analysis. And now we go back to viewing our box in 3D. So the next thing that I want to show you is something that's really helpful and can also save you a lot of time. And for this section, don't copy this yet because I want to show you something first. So if I press create here and then I click on hole, and then what I want to do is click on this top surface. And you can see here that it's creating a hole. And then I'm just going to move this to the center point. So this might look a bit complicated at first, but it's actually quite straightforward. These holes are really useful for creating holes if you're planning to put screws or a fixing inside that hole. Basically, here you can see the type of hole that you want. And these are really helpful for making sure any fixings fit into that hole. So let's look at hole type here, and you can see you've got simple hole, a counterbore hole, which is basically this section here, and then a countersunk hole. And a countersink is this section here. It allows the screw to be flush with the surface. And then we've got hole tap type. And for those people that are not sure, a tap is basically a thread for a hole that allows a screw or a bolt to be fastened to it. So if you've ever built any IKEA furniture, you'll know what I mean. So you can see here we've got simple, then we've got clearance, and then we've got a tapped one here. Then we can change here drill point to either flat or at an angle. And something to note here is that you can see the tap here. This is only just a representation of the tap. It's not actually physically there in the model. So if you're creating something that's going to be a physical part, either with 3D printing or another way, then you're going to need to use the molded checkbox in the hole settings. And we also have an option here for thread offset. This will be helpful depending on what screw you're using. So first of all, I'm actually going to cancel that. And please don't follow this step yet, I just want to show you something. And you'll see why, because if I come up here, click on insert and then fastener, you can actually see that there's a library here, and it has a load of different bolts, screws, nuts, also rivets and washers. So this just saves so much time. Instead of having to draw out these things independently, you can just use this library. And you've got a full catalogue of different parts. So I'm going to choose this one for now, and I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to take the information from this screw. So I can see that the size is an M3 and the length is 6mm. So I know I'm not going to get this exactly right on the first time, but it really depends on the screws that you're using for your project, and I just wanted to show you this as an example. So now you can start to follow along with me. So if I go back to the hole and then I click the top here and I position this in the center. Now yours may start off looking slightly different, so just have a look at the hole settings that I've got there and copy my settings for now. Now we know that the size needs to be M3 and the total length was 6mm. Then here, rotate your view back round to looking at the model in 3D, and now I want to change this one, so I've got a countersunk head. And I also want the diameter of this to be 6. So we can either use this handle here or alternatively type this in. And now let me show you how to add a screw. So I click here on OK, and then we just go back to the first one that I selected. Then we want to click on countersunk head, and we click on this one here. Then you can see we can position this using our mouse, and we click on the surface of the countersunk hole. Now, this one's actually gone red because it doesn't exactly fit the hole, but that's okay for now. I just wanted to show you this as an example. And you can see this warning comes up here, but it still does allow you to insert it. So then, once that's done, I hit enter. And you can see that it's added my screw to the hole. And then what we want to do now is come back to our section analysis. And we're actually going to see that, yeah, okay, it is overlapping a little bit, but that's okay for this example, because you'll use different screws and different holes for your project, so as long as you make sure for your project they fit right with one another. I just wanted to give you an idea of how it's working in this video. And you can see over here, it's also created a new folder called Fasteners. And also, you may be wondering what this is over here. Well, this has actually created a joint in the assembly, and a joint defines the position of two components inside the assembly. And we're really going to go into more detail in that in the next video. So then we come up here and we click on save. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, then please do hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one. Cheers.